Good morning, shut-ins.
Yo. Why is it so bright? God damn.
So sweet.
I look hella black, shiny.
Morning, everybody. Morning, Rianne. You want me to turn the light down a little bit?
You look damn near clear.
See-through.
Yeah, shit. Teeth look good, though. Good morning, Rayanne.
What's going on, everybody?
Good morning. Good morning.
How's everyone doing today? Sorry we're running late. It feels like that's like the normal thing that I say every show.
Oh, sure, 'cause we be tired.
So we're excited today. We actually have a really cool show today. Up first, we're going to have Ulysses Youngblood.
Ulysses Youngblood.
He's co-founder of Major Bloom, and he's a professor of entrepreneurship and cannabis at Clark University. He's a cool dude.
Clark University. Where's Clark?
I think that's in DC. I think it's a black university in DC. I might be totally wrong about that. But I think it's a black university in DC.
Definitely gonna correct you.
For sure. And then we also have on after that Ben Owens, and he's a cannabis strategist. And I'm gonna have to go over to my sheet here because the dude is so accomplished that there's a bunch of stuff. So he's the founder at CannaVenture, and he's an advisory board member at Cannabis Doing Good. He's also a senior staff writer at Hemp Connoisseur magazine.
Hemp.
And he's a columnist at Grassroots America magazine. So, and I knew Ben because Ben actually had a job working at a ticketing company that was cannabis friendly, or is cannabis friendly. But he's since left there, so we won't do the disservice of mentioning who that is on the show. Because that's his old job. Yeah, we're super psyched everyone's joining us today. Feel free to hit like and share if you feel like it. We appreciate it when you guys do that.
Good morning, y'all.
Say hi in the comments.
Morning, Amanda.
What's going on, Amanda? Nice to see you. Trish, good to see you. And Jake, if you're watching right now, thanks for watching. And I don't know who Queen V is, but we started the show like a hair late, so Queen V didn't get this. And since we only have a few comments, it's actually going to show up. Is the little
Queen V, what she do?
Queen V? I don't know, but she ordered a T-shirt. I don't know who she is, but thank you. And when you order something, I guess during the show, then it does that little.
Well, I'm looking like that in the camera.
Looking like what?
I was looking stupid as hell. Hell nah.
I feel like I look stupid every day. But it's still sort of fun. I feel like I didn't do a great job at lining us all up like Kushrooms. Kushrooms a little. At least we can. Yeah, that's great. That's amazing. And we also have Kushroom sitting on something now too, so that's cool.
Oh, man, I'm out of this one. Oh,
Oops.
shit. It's a very unstable table.
We need a table sponsor. We need a table sponsor.
A table sponsor.
I totally should have.
Lowe's, Home Depot, somebody hit them up. What's up, Johnny Two Socks? Is that who that is? Yeah. What's up, Johnny Two? What happened to Facebook, my brother? Why you get off of Facebook?
That was just for one day. He wanted to come in and say hi to everyone. What's up, Johnny T Socks? And Johnny, I'm still trying to find the correct. I know somebody posted the link in the show that day to the actual song, but for some reason your link when I clicked on it. It was like said unavailable or something. I'd still love to hear your Halloween song. That was released in like 80 something countries. And then people were actually checking out his book because Johnny Two Socks also wrote a book that I think got published.
We need to see that.
Mid 2000s. Johnny Two Socks says his computer is down. That's why. To you.
He got to get a cord.
Johnny Two Socks needs a cord sponsor if anyone's interested. Good morning, Sheila. What's up? What's going on, everybody? So yeah, we have a really cool show, and like I said up first, we have Ulysses Youngblood, and I should probably check the Zoom chat because he's probably sitting there waiting patiently. Of course he is. We'll start to get him on and ready.
It's not showing I like the show. I'm not sure. It's not showing. Yo.
What's going on?
You guys hear me?
We can, and I'm gonna got you on there. And give me just 1 second. I'm just gonna fix the layout here so we can see you really good.
Sounds good.
How you doing this morning?
Pretty good. Can't complain, you know. Living. Forgot my charger, man. Sorry about that. I'm at like 80%. But how about you guys?
We're doing pretty good as usual. Unfortunately, we started late. That seems to be like a running theme, but we're glad that you're.
It says the loud humming is back.
Loud humming is back. And Sheila says that, right?
Sheila always letting us know. I don't hear her. Go ahead.
Skip forward to the thing.
No, it shows up live. Sorry, buddy.
No, it's all good. Eric, you rolling up there?
You hear it? Yeah, we're trying to listen on the show. It's like a loud humming sound. We're trying to.
Oh, I got you.
You hear that?
No, I don't.
How you doing though, man?
Chilling. Can't complain, you know. Did I see you with something in your hand there?
Oh, it's a pen. Heck yeah. I gotta be able to function.
Yo, I thought you were rolling up.
Oh, usually I do at the end. At the end of the show, I usually do.
Oh, no doubt. Oh, I got you. Yo,
yeah, I try to make it towards the end of the show. I don't want some people like seeing people smoke on camera, but majority don't. So the rolling up part is kind of cool, but then the smoking is just
right. Absolutely. Makes sense.
So the humming is now gone, thankfully. Thanks for being patient with us, dude. We really appreciate you joining us today.
Absolutely. Happy to be here.
So I think, I've been connected with you on Facebook for a little bit. I think I had seen stuff about Major Bloom, but why don't you tell everyone in the audience a little bit about Major Bloom, because you're one of the co-founders, right?
Correct. Yeah, absolutely. So Major Bloom, we are an economic empowerment business here in the state of Massachusetts. High social impact is definitely at the core of our business. And we recently got approved for 2 provisional licenses, one in Attleboro, one in Worcester, both for retail. And then we also have a couple special permits, a couple host agreements for various other businesses, which would allow for us to be vertically integrated. So I think that's super important for economic empowerment and social equity applicants to have an opportunity to be vertically integrated. I feel like people don't talk about that often, but it was certainly top of mind for us when we got started in this journey 3-4 years ago.
And I would agree too, because I've seen potentially a lot of like sort of predatory agreements from folks sort of in the middle when folks are just going for, let's say, cultivation or just retail. I've seen a lot of instances where folks are, they're being faced with agreements and business deals that aren't necessarily advantageous to them, right? And so I think the vertical integration just allows you to be in control of your whole ecosystem. And when there's accelerators and different monies that can be made in different places, you're the one that gets to retain, control of that and decide how and what you're going to use that money with, and to make the business bigger and better, or to do good stuff, right?
Right.
So that's awesome. So how close are you guys? Like where are you in the process now? I know you have multiple license applications out.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was more or less with COVID, things, I won't say slowed us down per se. It just took a different approach to how we kind of want to execute. So right now I'm in the Worcester spot, basically with the permit in hand and that license in hand. That'll allow for us to do our architectural review and basically build out the spot. There's not much to it. I mean, it was vacant for 20 years or so. So there was not like a demo that we need to do. Basically, we're just preparing to do the framing and put up the walls and the HVAC and all that stuff. So it's not going to take much too long, but we definitely want to focus on this location, and then kind of grow from there.
That's amazing. That's awesome. And so you're also a professor at Clark University, right?
Yeah. I teach entrepreneurship there, and then I also facilitate graduate at their cannabis graduate program. And then I'm also actually building out a class for the graduate cannabis program, which I'll teach in the fall. Currently, I'm teaching a summer course, the framework on cannabis regulation. We look at a holistic approach across the nation for cannabis, and then we dive into the regulations in Massachusetts here. I would say I'm most excited about building out this social equity and social impact class that will be in the fall. So once this class is over in the summer, then I'll really dive into the meat and potatoes, and right now I got the skeleton, but yeah, I'm excited to develop that class in the fall.
So and not to put you on the spot.
Yeah, here we go.
Well, so as a black man, how you describe social equity and economic empowerment to your students? How is that? Where do you see some of the main differences from the general messaging that we as the public right now today get as social equity and economic empowerment? What are some of the important highlights that you want to differentiate?
That's a good question. I think it starts with the name, because when you hear social equity, it's actually a separate program in Massachusetts. You have your economic empowerment, then you have your social equity. But then when you hear social equity in cannabis, people just think a broader scale of social programs. I would say that even the fact that all companies have to do a direct impact plan, that's somewhat of a social equity or a social program. So I think really fully understanding it here on Massachusetts, but then also knowing that other states like Illinois and California, Colorado's just getting around to doing these social programs. I feel like there's a lot to be learned. There's a lot of gain from one state coming out with regulations and language about it first, and then learning from there. So since Massachusetts is one of the first states, I think it's extremely interesting that Colorado in retrospect is going back and doing things. Same with California. So I would say that states that are considering coming on board with legalization, it has to be top of mind. Honestly, it really has to be top of mind. And it doesn't matter what you call it. Just know that any social program is it's a necessity, to be honest with you. So yeah, hope that answers your question.
Well,
I just feel like social equity is so many different languages and names for it.
Well, and it is, and I think over time, even here in Massachusetts, we've seen that definition sort of expand, right? And it, in an attempt to make it more inclusive, which is great for being inclusive, but it also, for the folks that maybe were originally in, let's say, the social equity program, and now they have additional rounds, and yes, it's important to open it back up to people who deserve to be a part of it, but it also, makes that pool of social equity applicants just that much larger, right? And
right.
And I think one thing, hopefully, that some of the, even more important than, let's say, Colorado, California, and even Massachusetts making efforts once we're now in this process to try to make things better, is for the states that haven't done anything yet. right? Because
Right.
it's like you're saying, like they, here in Massachusetts, it strikes me that some of our movement came sort of retroactive after we made it medicinally legal, right? And so what that did is it opened it up to just companies in general. It really didn't matter who you were or what you were, as long as you had the money to be able to open up the business, right?
Right.
And so now when we talk about trying to institute something like ratios, it's like it seems improbable or almost impossible to do
Right.
ratios that would actually help to like even things out the way that maybe they should have been from the start, right?
Right. Right. I agree. I agree. I mean, I always say this. I write about this, pretty often, that like you look at the disparities and the fact that black men, people of color, 3 times as likely to get arrested. It's very simple for us to say that there should be 3 times as many businesses. Like, is that too simple? Let's set up a framework around that. Like, you know what I mean? But like, we have these different nuances. You mentioned the medical program, which was not very equitable at all. And then kind of just like using different frameworks from medical, then you got some alcohol provisions that are similar, you know what I mean? And like it's just a lot. But like the simplest way that you can put it is that if a certain group is 3 times as likely, then let's put 3 times the effort to make sure, you know what I mean, in retrospect, that we're doing right.
Or
To me, it's not rocket science.
or even how about equal? Like even
Right.
and by the way, that doesn't go to make up for things. That just sort of sets it even, right? Like
Right.
but even just to make it equal. And I mean, at this point in Massachusetts, we have so many licenses out there, and now that RMD, not now, but because RMDs are also considered to have equal priority to economic empowerment and social equity folks,
Right.
right? It just sort of makes it still very, very difficult for the people that were actually intended for economic empowerment and social equity to help. It really makes it a lot more difficult for those people to be able to take advantage of this opportunity, right? And it's not like they're not getting many, and the window's short, and so it's really interesting, it's and really when you combine it to just Black Lives Matter and to just protests across the nation and across the world that are going on right now. And it's just really interesting to me because I think a lot of cannabis industry people tend to forget that we are all of, including the 80, 90, 95, 99% white folks that are in the cannabis industry, all seem to forget that like our ability to enter the industry all came about because of the war on drugs, which resulted in police brutality and ongoing murder of black men, right? And so we all sort of, people in the cannabis industry, especially white people, should be kind of remembering that they're all lucky, and we're all lucky enough to have these opportunities because of that war on drugs, and look what the effects had. And when we're trying to say like, let's take this opportunity to right that, and then we're not really, it's a lot of lip service, right? Like there's not a lot of meat behind the words sometimes, right?
Yeah, yeah. I look at it, and it's the way that we have a pandemic going on with obviously COVID, and then we have protests, riots, obviously after the killing of George Floyd. It's very similar to the medical market, and then you have your equity program, your social programs, because it's like it's either public health, which would be medical marijuana, or social good, which would be economic empowerment. Same thing. It's like, do we worry about this crisis that's going on right now, or do we worry about this protest? So on a national scale, it's very similar to like what we're dealing with here. I always feel like that you have to choose, like the way that things are set up, you have to choose whether you're for the good of patients or the medical or public health, or are you for the good of social good. And this shouldn't be exclusive. it should be all together. It shouldn't be one or the other. You know what I mean?
Well, and I don't know. This is just my lousy opinion on stuff, right? But like, I tend to feel that when you're fighting for what's right, there shouldn't be a delineation, right? And so to me, if you're fighting for medicinal rights for cannabis, it doesn't make sense that you wouldn't be fighting for the rights of black people to even just be treated equal, right? Like to me, there's a large disconnect there, and I think that's when it's less about empathy and doing what's right and a little bit more about like sociopathy and doing what's right for us, right, as individuals. And so, I'm just a firm believer that anybody who's an activist in the cannabis community or owns a company in the cannabis community, like, should be coming out vocally for Black Lives Matter, because it's, or just don't be in the or like, how do you wake up in the morning? How do you wake up in the morning and go do your job or say that you're an activist when there's a line, and also when black people are the ones that got damaged most by cannabis being illegal in the first place. So yes, medicine is important, and yeah, I'm willing to admit as a white guy that like a lot of white people thought that cannabis being available as medicine was more important than black dudes dying, right? But that's legal now, so now it's time for everyone, right? Like, think about it. In Massachusetts, a lot of the activism died down because what's left to really fight for? Well, there's black people, and there's also economic empowerment, right, and social equity, but specifically economic empowerment, even, that's like intended to actually try to gently start to repair. And you know what I'm saying? Like, it's crazy.
I do.
The silence is deafening, dude. It's so crazy, right?
Yeah. I think one of the interesting things about the economic empowerment, and don't quote me on this, at least I've heard, is that the majority of folks in the program they don't look like me and my business partner. You know what I mean? I can't say it without looking at any data, but like, and that's the other thing, is that like nowadays we use so much to beat around the bush of like inclusion and diversity, and when we do that, it dilutes the real problem, which is people of color, black people, men specifically, you know what I mean, like, who have been harmed, so it's like, you understand it to a degree, and for given reason, it's, I guess, federally illegal to call out a race and say we want to help these group of people, which is exactly why our laws are written the way that they are, where it's not calling out race, it's saying you're specific to this neighborhood or you have this specific experience, so you qualify, right? But I do think that, and this is not just for cannabis alone, it's for any organization that say that we want to introduce more diversity and inclusion, it's really watering down, the people who have been most impacted, to be honest with you. And that's people that look like Eric and myself, and women as well, So we appreciate you joining us today. You're hanging out with me and Eric. You're a white dude that gets it, right?
Exactly. And I think one mistake I make a lot is that I don't listen enough. I'm a talker, right? So I tend to talk a lot, and I run the risk of like white-splaining a lot of stuff, right? And so it's I think just me being vocal is that when black people are upset and vocal about stuff, white people use that as an excuse to shut out what the message is, right? And to ignore the pain of whatever's going on. And so sometimes I just think it takes white people to tell other white people, that we need to act right, and to at least try to set, I'm not perfect, but I'm trying to set a good example. That's all.
Right. That makes sense.
So, by the way, we actually have a question in the audience, and I think you being the expert, you being the professor, what's can you explain, at least in Massachusetts, what the main difference is between social equity and economic empowerment?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I can talk by the qualification period, because the economic empowerment was a short window. There was 5 criteria that we had to qualify for. I don't know all of them off the top of my head, but I do know that period was in 2018. It was like 2 weeks in April, and we had a chance to kind of put all these documents together and apply for it. And what it had started with was that criteria, and then also having being in an accelerated program. So with economic empowerment, we have the opportunity to get our license looked at like right away, which is true because we just submitted another license for manufacturing, and literally the next day they came back with like, hey, we need this, this, and that. So definitely appreciate the CCC for that. And it's been like that, like this whole process is that it's true. It's like anytime that we needed to submit something to them or get them on the phone, they're willing and able to talk with us and communicate with us like really fast. Where the social equity program, by design, it was the criteria was a little bit different. Again, I don't know all of them off the top of my head, but it was more of a training and resource kind of a program where you have in-person classes and you have these different resources that will basically help you get your business up and running or get employment into the industry. And that is running. They have cohorts for that, like every other couple months or whatever, and it's running. Where economic empowerment is at this point is shut off. I also think that initially social equity did not have the opportunity to have accelerated licensing. I do think that is the case now. When you are a social equity applicant applying for a license, then ultimately, the CCC will look at your license pretty quickly.
And Ulysses, is it also safe to say that social equity was intended from a business ownership standpoint to benefit directly some of the people that were affected by the war on drugs, while economic empowerment was opened up slightly, but economic empowerment businesses have requirements to give back to the community in a number of ways additional to normal licensed cannabis businesses in Massachusetts, which are required to give back in different ways to the community, right?
So the direct impact plan is for all businesses, whether you're medical, social equity, and economic empowerment. I think for us, the primary difference is who we hire and kind of the threshold for economic empowerment, which is pretty standard anyway, because it's like, all right, if we are people of color, me and my business partner, are founders and owners of business, people of color, of course, then we want to be in a position to, hire those that look like us or have seen disparities, kind of the same, same as us. I think the economic empowerment, I think the social equity probably, and don't quote me on this, might not have the same provision, but like when you have a group, again, at this point, it's probably like 200 different people or maybe even more than that have been through this cohort of social equity. So like as a business owner, if you're a social equity applicant, who you going to go to? Probably your pool of social equity applicants as well. So it is, I guess, more of a, I don't want to say regulated or mandated. I guess it's more of a criteria for economic empowerment, but I think it's one and the same for social equity anyway. Like you're going to hire people from the social equity or economic empowerment program.
Well, and I think, and you're talking about like sort of the moral compass and the moral stake in the ground that you as a business owner will put in, right? But what I guess what I'm referring to is like, so social equity, like if I had gone to prison, let's say for, and even as a white guy, like if I had gone to prison from drug charges, I would be eligible for the social equity program, right?
Like a murder on your yeah, something like that.
I thought that water bottle you just drank, I thought that was a Ciroc bottle. I was like, what?
Yeah.
My man.
I'm going in early, get Diddy on the line.
I was about to say, my man said it's 5 o'clock anywhere.
No, bro. It's water, man. It's water.
It looked like the blue Ciroc bottle. I was like, hold on, this dude.
That's funny. That's funny.
Oh man.
Well, so what I was going to say is that. Sorry, I'm just fixing your camera here for just a second. Is that like, in theory, my town in Massachusetts, I was eligible for economic empowerment, right? I could have signed up for that because of where I lived, even me as a white guy, right? And so if I got my license and I opened up whatever kind of business I wanted as an economic empowerment licensee, I would be required, in addition to the impact plan, right? The direct impact plan, I would have to
Right.
like hire people. At minimum, I'd have to, even if I was a white guy and I'm like, yeah, I'm not worried about hiring only black people. I would still have to hire people like from the towns. I think from like the 20-something towns in Massachusetts that are considered the really affected communities, right? And so the economic empowerment businesses are supposed to benefit those communities specifically in an extra way that anyone else has to. Now, if I had conversely, like let's say I'd gone to jail for marijuana at some point, I would have been eligible for social equity and even as a white guy, right? And had I signed up for that, had I signed up for that and opened up something, that would almost be like reparations to me, as opposed to like me as a business owner saying like I'm opening a business and now I have to sort of try to do gentle reparations back to the community.
Right.
And to me, I don't know, and maybe I'm off base. So you as the professor, like tell me where I'm off base here. But like to me, that was always like the intent of the two. That was sort of the main differentiator for me, was like social equity. I needed to be affected by the war on drugs. Economic empowerment, I'm agreeing to help to benefit people who are affected by the war on drugs.
Right. I mean, it's a thin line, man, because it's like, who are we to say that like the impact? I'll tell you, man. I was kicked out of my college dorm room because my room smelled like weed when I was 18, and that led to a plethora of like run-ins with the law and stuff. So like, I consider to be impacted by the war on drugs, and I know it's not is to the extent of being arrested and being in jail, but it's the systemic things that we come up against that like it's again, specific to black men and black people, where the state can't call that out. It can't call that out. So they have to look at different ways to say, okay, here's a criteria there, here's a criteria there. But I think the social equity and the economic empowerment, they are starting to kind of, I don't want to say look one and the same, because for obvious reasons, the social equity program has a little bit more training, a little bit more hands-on, support. But yeah, I mean, they're both social programs, and I think any business owner, whether it's medical, whether it's your social equity or economic empowerment, it is a great pool of people that you can work with. I mean, I even tried as the economic empowerment, like jumping into this entrepreneurship thing. As soon as we got certified through that a couple of years ago, reaching out to these dispensaries, like, hey, I'm in this state program. Of course, I'm an entrepreneur, and I'm going to get a business, a retail business or a cultivation or manufacturing business going up and running. But like, why don't we use this as an opportunity for me to learn what you guys are doing, and then or learn more of the system, and then more of the operations, and then have the opportunity to kind of do my own thing. So I think that's what the social equity program is certainly set up to kind of replicate, with different tracks of entrepreneurship and ancillary and employment services and things of that nature. But I do see that they are meshing, like more often than not, in a way that like people just look at them as being the same, and they're starting to move in the same direction, same trajectory. So it's tough to delineate the difference when I know that they both could be good and could have a strong impact on the way equity is rolled out here in Massachusetts, or should be.
Ulysses, so what's the, I know you're, and a lot of folks in the comments are saying that they want to go back and watch this from the beginning, because a lot of folks, I guess, jumped in like halfway through the interview.
No doubt. How many viewers we got by chance?
It's always tough to tell across different platforms. I mean, we definitely have like a good amount for a morning cannabis show, but I'd say normally, but within a day or two, it's usually somewhere around 1,500 to 2,000 different people that have watched. So it's usually pretty good.
Absolutely.
We have been finding though that with sort of people not being shut in so much now, that some people are watching it more people are watching it after the fact that had been watching it live.
Right. That makes sense.
Yeah, we've been actually thinking about changing the time of the show, because we think a lot more people are probably available in the evenings than in the morning.
Word. Makes sense.
How can people connect with you and follow what you got going on and help or keep up with what you've got going? What's the best way?
Yeah, I'm pretty active on LinkedIn. It's Ulysses. It might be Ulysses J Youngblood or Ulysses Youngblood. Facebook too. You can just Google search and find me that way.
Young blood.
But yeah, pretty open. Yeah, it's a football name, right? Right.
I was hearing you. I was like, okay, young blood.
Yes, sir.
You originally from Massachusetts?
Nah, I'm from Bridgeport, Connecticut. I moved here to play football at Assumption College, the college I got kicked out of for weed.
For real? Damn. Yeah, that almost happened to me, but I passed the drug test.
Okay. Yeah, you went to Nebraska, right?
Yep. They used to test us so much, man. It got to a point we had to start doing other stuff. We had to find I had to find other means of getting messed up.
I feel you, man. I feel you.
Sure.
I mean, that's a whole nother conversation, man. Like,
yeah.
You know what? You know Hakeem Vowles by chance? He played for the Cardinals.
Hakeem
he went to
Vowles?
Vowles, yeah.
Vowles?
You got a little brother that got drafted as well?
Vowles, the last name, I haven't heard of that.
I might have to connect you guys. We'll definitely link at some point, but like, he's a good dude to know.
Where does he stay? He stay in Arizona?
What you say?
You say he played for the Cardinals?
He played for the Cardinals. I think he got drafted by the Lions. And then he might have did a stint with the Giants as well.
Where's he staying at now? In Arizona?
Nah, he's in St. Louis. He's not in the league anymore. He retired. Just like you, young wise dude. It's like, you know.
Dang, I was saying because most people who live in Arizona most likely always end up going back staying there.
Right. I think he owns properties out there.
Yeah,
I think he owns properties.
Yeah.
He doesn't live out there.
Yeah, it's cheap. It's cheap to live down there, and it's just it's good weather.
Right.
And you don't have to put up with California like prices, but you still get the California feel, and you next to it. So.
Absolutely.
Man.
Well, dude, we appreciate you joining us. We definitely want to have you back on again to talk some more if you're willing to come back.
Absolutely. I love it, man. I mean, I checked out a couple episodes you guys got going on and digging the vibe, How did you guys meet by chance? That's one thing I was thinking of.
Everybody always asks that. He was doing a TV show and asked me to do it, and I said yeah. So then we was there doing a TV show, and we just started talking after everybody left, and we just kind of kept talking after that. And as you can see, he's smart, so, and he.
Right, I know he knows. So you guys are both in Massachusetts, right?
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
Yeah,
that's cool. Very cool.
Yeah, and honestly, like I don't know. I was just watching him. I was watching people gently abuse him in the cannabis industry. Not abuse, just take advantage of him. You know what I'm saying? And I was like, hey,
yeah, I was doing a lot of that
anymore.
I was doing a lot of stuff for free. Just
right.
Just trying to get into the industry because I had just got done playing ball, and I just kind of decided to walk away from the sport on my own. So it wasn't like I really had anything like set up really, but I was like
right.
Shit. Most of the time I like smoking and stuff, and then that's when I started watching TV because I was here in Massachusetts, and I started watching more TV and noticing Massachusetts starting to be open towards cannabis more, and I was like,
right.
This is an industry that I can be a part of that actually benefits me, and the more people I meet, the more access I'm gonna have to it, so I won't have to worry about, dealing with pain pills and, over-the-counter meds and stuff like that. So it kind of pushed me away from the antidepressants and the Adderall and stuff like that. I still like the Adderall though, but yeah. Hey, it's some things it's some medicine you need, and I'm telling you, I need. My attention span is short. I don't know if you be watching the shows or not, but I know you be seeing me looking at butterflies going across the screen. There don't even be a butterfly there, so.
I was the same way, man. I got ADHD. That's why I smoke weed, though. To be honest.
Exactly, because it kind of. It kind of puts you
That's
in
how
the
I got my
mode.
medical card, was for ADHD.
I do too, yeah. And it's crazy. I was getting Adderall through the league, which let me tell you, in the NFL, you cannot get Adderall unless you really need it. Like you have to. I had to meet with 5 different doctors. I had to get approved by the NFL. Yeah, because let me tell you, if you take Adderall and play in the NFL, you are going to be a good player. I don't care what you say. Let me tell you, the
They look
focus.
at it as enhancement.
Well, it's kind of like a performance enhancement because
Right.
if you're like football makes you, when you're out there, you automatically get into a zone. And so when you have something helping you get more focused than what you already are, let me tell you, you're kind of like a step ahead of everybody in terms of like processing stuff. And I know that because when I was taking Adderall and then I stopped taking it, I realized that my game changed a little bit. Like I was more hesitant on stuff. I was thinking more, a little bit more when I'm not on Adderall. But then when I started taking it again, then I realized like, because every team you go to, you have to get a new subscription. Like you got to go through the program again of meeting with the doctors and all that stuff to get approved. So I had to stop taking it for a little bit before I started again. And let me tell you, when I started again, I immediately in the practice, I can tell, how much focused I am, how much more I'm learning in meetings, just all the little things that it takes to become that next level player. And that's why I think personally, if you need it, like I wouldn't have been a good player. I wouldn't have lasted as long as I did in the league without it, because simply I just don't have the I can't do the little things. I can't remember to do the little things all the time. I'll wake up late or, I just get off task real quick. And in football and at that level, you need to be consistent. Consistent is the most important thing at that level because your body, you hit a peak, but then your body automatically goes down. It starts to go down each year because the more hits, the harder the hits, the older you're getting, and you're dealing with other factors, whether it's starting a family, stuff like that. So it just becomes deteriorating on your body and your mind. So over time, you gotta find that consistency to where your body can maintain its level. You're not necessarily getting better, but you're maintaining a level to where you're not deteriorating faster. So like from 1 year, you're not dropping down to like, 5, it's not a complete different year,
Right.
So it's just
right. No, that's game, man.
Yeah.
That's game. I'm with you, bro.
Yeah, so it's just one of them things where I was like, yo, and when I used to smoke weed and take Adderall, like when I was playing. I did both, but I only smoked like before the games. Like I smoke every day, but like when I smoked before the games, it was a specific, time. Like I do it, make sure it's like before the time I had to get there, so at least I can come down, but still have the effects of it a little bit before the game start. But I took Adderall too because I did it every day. I needed it. It was 20 milligrams. I needed it every day just to be able to get up and get ready to go, because it's a mentality you got to have when you're out there and you got to be able to keep that focus consistently all the time. Otherwise, you're just gonna be at home watching everybody else play. There's so many players trying to get into that league, man. I'm telling you, it's a competition every day. So you got to be bringing your A game. No,
absolutely, man. If it wasn't for me getting kicked out, that'd be the dream.
Exactly.
To keep pursuing it.
And it's you. It was my dream. It's a whole bunch of kids' dreams. And from high school, like, kids coming out of high school, I think it's 1.5 million that want to go to college to play ball, and then only 600,000 get a scholarship. And then from that, only 1% of that make it to the league.
1%, bro.
And so bro.
Makes you a 1%er. You're a 1%er.
That's what I'm saying. So you're trying to fight. You got to battle and maintain that, because there's younger dudes coming in that's faster, stronger, and more and smarter, and had a head start, had a better start than you did. Some kids they get you know, they play football from the time they, you know, 5, 6 years old. I didn't really get good in football till I was in high school.
Right.
You know,
right,
so
yeah. Yo, but that saved you. That probably saved you, man.
Exactly.
I got homies that have been playing Pop Warner like since 7th or 8th grade.
Sometimes that can hurt you over time.
Yo, your brain is fucked up.
Yeah,
bro.
yeah.
He didn't even make it to college, but he just been playing for so long, fucking, you know, hitting his head against shit for so long. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, and I feel you, bro. But football is one of those sports where it's you can wait till longer, and I think that's going to be the regime nowadays. That like when it comes to contact, you wait until you're 13, 14.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
So at least your brain is developed, and you can be the mental. You can have the mental aspect of the game before you get the physical.
Absolutely.
You know, so
the fundamentals, the mental.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Just keeping your head out of contact, all that stuff, man.
Right. No, it's the same. I was telling you about Hakeem. It's the same thing. He says it all the time that he was like garbage up until like halfway through college. And it's very similar mindset where, you know, the consistency, you know, just doing the little things, and that's what got him to that level. You know what I mean?
And that's what
it wasn't like his skills were like, you know what I mean?
And that's what people.
And I can see it, and I believe that, man. Like, you know, which is cool.
And that's what people.
It is a mental thing, you know. We say,
and that's what people. I was gonna say that's what people like fail to realize. Like people always wonder like how players get from like high school, or how players are good in high school and then they get to college and they suck, or how players be super good in college and get to the NFL and they suck. And it's like because once you reach to a high level, some people they get comfortable. You know, they get to college and they're like, oh, I'm up for DB All-American of the year, da 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 da. And then they get to the NFL and they think they try to use that college as, you know, me being who I am. And you see a lot of players, man, they be like first and second round picks, and you be in the meetings with them and you be like, yo, how did this dude go first round? Like, how did this dude go second round? Like, this dude mess up literally every play. Like, and you sit there and you start to see like some of these guys and you're like, yo, this is crazy. Like, I don't know how this dude was who he is, but then you see glimpses of it sometimes, but then you don't see it again. You like, next thing you know, he out of the league. I done watched 2 or 3 players, you know, that I thought that I seen personally get drafted. I'm like, dang, that player was tight in high school. But then I actually see them in practice, and I see how they approach the game from the time they wake up in the morning to the time they go to sleep, because you get to see that in training camp. You get to see how everybody approaches the game. So you see a approach and you like, yo, these dudes are literally just talented, but they don't really have the hard work to go with it.
Right.
But they're super talented. And then you see players that wasn't known in college, that didn't go to a big college, and you see them and you see the way they prep for the game, the way they wake up, and you're like, yo, I want to be like him. But they don't really have a name, nothing, but they're still making money and they're in the league for 8, 9 years, and you're like, yo, who is this guy? And you wonder how your team picked up this, 6-year dude. You never heard of him, but he's good. It's because he approaches the game how it's supposed to be, and that's, keeping your head down and just going. That's how I did. But unfortunately, I just came to injury. Injuries took over my career. And so, that's, and this is not like muscle injuries. I never had a surgery. I pulled plenty of muscles, and that's just from playing defensive lineman. When you're a defensive line, you constantly wrestling somebody. So eventually you're going to get hurt, when you're making contact every play. So, but I've never had any serious injury that took me out for months. Besides, I tore a hip flexor, but that was it. That's uncontrollable. I couldn't do nothing about that. But most of mine was like concussions and, trying to learn how to keep my head out of contact. But I was also an undersized defensive end. So it was bound to happen,
No, I feel you. So what do you think the percentage of NFL players that smoke weed?
Oh, bro, I'm not, if you really, look, let me tell you, every single player I've talked to smoked weed, and I talked to a lot of players in a lot of different locker rooms, and every single player I've talked to, I've heard them talk about weed, and the coaches talk about drug tests all the time, especially when it's coming up, right when the season starts from April to May is when you can get tested. So, the coaches talk about all the time, yo, make sure y'all doing stuff out of here. Make sure y'all,
Study.
you know.
Make sure you study for the test.
Exactly. And so, let me tell you, when them drug tests come, bro, and everybody's done with this is the funniest part of camp, like, of our summer, is when they calling in groups, because they call them by groups. Usually, it'd be like the running backs or, you know, the linebackers or the safeties all get tested. And, or sometimes, depending on the team, it'll be like individual players, you know. But for most part, most of the team I was on, it was like if the linebackers was all getting tested that time, it was all the linebackers. So the best part of that is when you walk in, you get a letter, you get a sheet, a little square sheet, and everybody know the size of the sheet and everything, and you know what it means. As soon as you see that sheet, you know that person getting drug tested. So when they walk in, you see their face, they like, oh, I'm gonna get drug tested, but then they know. Once after that drug test, bro, you free game. You can do whatever you want the rest of the year. So it's like people be smiling. They be like, yeah, I'm getting my drug test. And as soon as they done, they be like, yo, I can't wait to get to the crib tonight. You know?
Wait, so when you have that letter on the locker, is it same day you get tested?
Yeah, so the letter usually says, like, they put the letter before 6 a.m. So the letter, as soon as you walk in, as soon as you see the letter, is usually the guy, the drug test guy, he's sitting there in the bathroom. So he gets there at like 5:30 and he puts all the letters out. And then he sits in the bathroom. And so then as soon as you walk in and you see the letter, he watches you and then he crosses your name off. Because once you see the letter, you have until a certain amount of time to take your piss test from the time you see the letter. And so you got a certain amount of time, and if you don't, then it's called a no-show, which means you automatically fail. So they tell you, like, yo, as soon as you see the letter, you got like 2 or 3 hours to take a piss. Yeah, they don't bullshit. Like, soon as they watch you see the letter, then bam, you on the clock. And some dudes, you know,
if you smoked the night before.
Yeah, if you smoked the night before, you probably fucked. Yeah, basically. Unless you pull a Von Miller and you know you pay off the drug dude, the guy who give you the drug test, you pay him off because you Von Miller. You know, I'd do it if I was him. I would have did it. You know, you saving a lot of money.
I guess that makes sense because you ultimately get fined, right?
Yeah. Well, you know, Von Miller is when you make $100 million. You got a $100 million contract. I mean, that ain't gonna hurt you much, but at the same time, it's like, yo, I mean, I got the money. Why, you know?
Right.
I'm not saying I agree with his actions. Wrong is wrong, but my man's he paid off the drug dude. That's crazy. He did it in the league, and the dude went with it. I don't know if you've seen that. It was a whole story on it. Yeah, so him and like 3 other players was taking their drug tests, but they would have failed it, but they were paying off the drug test guy to you know give him some clean piss, and it ended up coming out that this dude was getting paid off, and a lot of players got suspended for it. It was crazy. But it's the same thing, man. There's so much stuff that goes on in the league, you know, like when it comes to like the steroid stuff. The steroid test is year round. But, you know, if you blow an ACL and you gotta wait a whole year. So say you blow an ACL in week 10, week 12, you know, that's a whole year injury. So you're not gonna play until next year, week 10 or week 12. Well, if your contract, when you get hurt and you're on IR, you only get paid half every game. So you got to think, if I take a steroid to come back off of an injury faster, the most I'm gonna do is get suspended for 4 games. That's 4 games without pay.
Right.
So if your injury says I'm not coming back to week 12, that means you're not getting half. You only getting half all the way up until week 12.
Right.
But if you take this steroid, you only miss 4 games, but you play the rest of the season and you get the rest of your contract. You see where that balance is? So it's like, do I take the criticism of being a steroid user and miss 4 games, but I still get paid the rest of the season? And I come back, faster, and I get to make incentives when I, out during the season. But if I stay injured, then I'm not going to come back to week 12. And who knows if I'm actually going to come back, because that injury still needs like a 2-week, build up period before you can really get the running on it again. So it's one of them things where like you got to make that decision. Do I just wait it out and be a clean recovery dude, or do I just take that heat and come back faster? And let me tell you, a lot of players is just gonna be like, I'm gonna take the heat. And that's why you see good players who make a lot of money and who do really well during the season. You see them like, hey, I don't care, I'll take the steroids and take the 4 games. That's similar to what Edelman did. Edelman, when he tore his ACL, he got caught with PEDs next year. He missed the 4 games, but came back week 5 and tore up the rest of the season. So he would have, if he would have just let that ACL naturally heal, he wouldn't have been back till week 8, and then probably wouldn't have played till week 12. So it was kind of one of them things where he was like, hey, whatever. People would get over it when I'm out there catching TDs.
Basically.
But you notice that, and it's a lot of people that do that with like even concussion injuries. Like some dudes who notice their time coming up, they had too many concussions, they'll just, stay on injury and just keep saying, hey, my head hurt. And then the team has to keep you keep you doing stuff to prevent your head from hurting, So until you sign off and say, hey, I'm good, then they just keep paying you, keep you on the team, all types of stuff,
Right.
So yeah, it's a lot of ways people try to get around the contract, get around the rules, and sometimes you gotta take heat, but at the end of the day, man, it's all about providing for your family, and trying to get as much out of this league as you can, because once it's over, it's over. Everything stopped,
Right. No, I feel you. Well, hopefully, the NFL loosens up on the marijuana kind of regulations and how things are treated, especially with the CTE and all that shit, man.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in it, and I know that cannabis can help for it. And
well, first they need to do this. They need to do this Black Lives Matter. They need to take care of that first, and then we can move on to the CTE stuff.
Right? Yeah. No. 100%. 100%. It's affecting a certain population, that's for sure, and it's the same population. So
exactly. Yeah. Yeah, man. This league.
You're a 1%er, bro. Hats off for that, no doubt, man.
Oh yeah, man. It's always good to talk to a fellow warrior, man.
Absolutely.
Man, I know you prep for that battle before. Hey, that's what I always tell people. People be like, "Oh yeah, man, I only play football at this small school." Da da da. I'm like, yo, it don't matter where you step on the field. Between them white lines, bro, it's somebody out there willing to take your head off. It don't matter if it's D1, D2. A semi-pro team, or just somebody in the backyard all lining up with pads on, bro. Football is football. When you out there, it's a battle zone. You get your head knocked off, man. I love talking to all football players, man. Hearing some of their stories and then telling them mine, because we all glorify them days, man. Them is days where you didn't worry about nothing, you know what I mean?
Right. Nah, I feel you. Are you gonna coach? Are you interested in coaching at all?
People always ask me that, and I always tell them I'm not really interested, because the way I played was a little different than the way everybody else plays now. It's more fundamentals and stuff. I'll just knock your head off. So, and that's not something I should be encouraging, young kids to be doing. Because that's what kind of coach I'm going to be. I'm going to be like, yo, you just got to hit him in the mouth. You hit him in the mouth one time, his whole perception will change of you throughout the whole game. And I learned that a lot. You hit somebody one time, they'll give you a look like, damn, I got to hit this dude every play now. So now they scared, and you can, play the game. You can play how you want. Now they playing to you. You're not playing to them. So that's the way I play. And I don't think I should be telling kids to do that. Otherwise, we're going to have, we're going to have 21, 22 kids out there knocking heads off.
Yeah, I feel you, man.
So yeah, I do love the game. I love to encourage kids to play, but I don't think I could coach it because I think I'd be like too intense and
Right, right,
I think my temper would be too short for kids who don't want to be there and who's just there to be a football player. I don't want to have to witness that and have to
right.
go off on a kid and now I got to deal with his parents. So I'm just trying to stay away from that type of scenario.
Smart, thinking ahead, thinking ahead. Oh, that's funny.
But I do enjoy like hosting camps, for like kids and just letting them see the ring and giving them something to keep pushing towards. That's
Right.
I'd rather be that than trying to force a kid into playing a sport that's not for them.
Right.
I just couldn't do it. If you're not for the sport, you shouldn't be playing it.
I feel you, man. I feel you. Wow, that's game. That's game. Well, I think you guys should come through. Shoot an episode here. You know what I mean? At some point, definitely come through once we're open.
Oh yeah.
You know?
We'd love to.
Well,
Hey, shit.
absolutely.
Cool, man. Well, it was awesome hanging out with you. We appreciate you spending so much time with us.
Likewise, guys. Yeah, just let me know. Let me know when we want to do it again or when you guys want to come through.
Hey,
We'll
shit.
take it from there.
You got it. It was good to finally meet you.
Good talking to you. man.
Likewise.
All right,
Likewise,
man.
guys. All right, we'll talk to you soon.
All right.
All right, bye.
That was cool. What's up, Hako? What's up, Rebecca? What's up, Jordan? What's up, Angela?
Hey, shit, I could not be no coach. I know y'all here laughing. Y'all see, I told you, I'm going to be telling them knock they head. Look it. I'm going to have a rough group of kids. They gonna be killers if I if I get a team full of kids. I can't do it. The first practice is going to be Oklahoma drills for 2 hours. That's what our coach did to us, so that's what I had to do to them. Anybody know what Oklahoma drills is? Then if you don't know what Oklahoma drills is, then you ain't played football. And you ain't never been in a position where you was scared for your life. Like, Oklahoma drills make you scared for your life. If you really like had some killers, if you had a mean coach, if you had some killers on the squad, you knew if Oklahoma drills was coming, you had to get a good sleep because that next day you was scared and you gotta get over this fear of hitting. I'm telling you, that's why I couldn't have no little kids, man.
For those of you that are joining us a little late, we just had Ulysses Youngblood come on. He's co-founder of Major Bloom, which is a vertically run licensee here in the state of Massachusetts. I believe social equity, no, economic empowerment. I believe one of the two. I'm a jerk for bringing it up if I didn't remember which one. But either way, he was really awesome. And now we're gonna have Ben Owens come on.
Yo, what's up, Ben?
How's it going, guys? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, Ben, thanks so much for being patient. We're sorry that we're running late today. Eric, our last guest, we started talking a little bit about football, and Eric gets a little passionate about that. So
No, it was interesting to listen. I've been listening since the show started. So.
Nice.
So, Ben, you may have some of like the most credentials that I've ever put up on screen for folks. Actually, at first I was like, cannabis strategist. I'm like, that's cool. That'll be nice and big on the screen. And then I realized that I had a whole nother column with information. And so hold on, I'm going to, because I probably should be wearing glasses these days. So you're also the founder at CannaVenture. And you're an advisory board member at Cannabis Doing Good. And you're also a senior staff writer at Hemp Connoisseur magazine. And you're a columnist at Grassroots America magazine.
Sure.
I think I got all that right. And I need to, while you're talking, I'm gonna let you talk because I've been talking a lot. I'm gonna fix your titles because clearly I did a really poor job of getting those up there, which is really strange. It's showing up right here. I see. So Ben, welcome and thanks for joining us. We appreciate it. And Ben, where are you out of these days?
So I'm based out of Superior in Colorado, which is just north of Denver, just south of Boulder, about halfway between the two. I've been here for the past few years, but I'm originally from Arizona.
Okay. And Ben, I had previously met you through a ticketing company that you had worked at, which was Cannabis Friendly, which was really cool. But you've moved on from there, and you've started CannaVenture. Is that correct?
Yeah. So CannaVenture actually predated working with the ticketing company. When I moved to Colorado, I'm a hiker, camper, avid outdoors enthusiast, as you would say, and I smoke a lot of weed. And so I was so excited to move to Colorado. I was like, there's got to be tons of people that are out here hiking and smoking, and there's got to be a group for this, that I can just join, go Saturdays or whatever. And there wasn't. There was nothing. And at the time, I was frustrated by that and didn't know, a lot about the laws and how things work. And the main reason for that is because, according to Colorado law, most laws that have legal cannabis, public consumption is illegal, which is very hard to kind of do if you're throwing a cannabis event outdoors. We didn't know that, in the beginning, but it started just as me wanting to meet other people that wanted to go hiking periodically and smoke weed, and seeing if there was any interest. And we had, a significant amount of interest online. And I like to joke about our first event actually only had one person show up, but when I did the second hike, we had like 16, and the next hike had like 36. And it just kind of, it's maintained a good steady flow of people up until, COVID. That's even allowed us to expand to Tennessee. I've got a buddy out there, Trevor, out in Tennessee, and he's running Hemp hike. So they have legal hemp. They don't have cannabis yet, but he can do very similar things, working with companies out there that are producing hemp flower, pre-rolls, gummies, those kinds of things for the CBD market, and just kind of starting to expand that way. We also did a hike in North Carolina with that same premise.
Okay. And so, I guess, how have you, having moved from the event space into being a cannabis strategist, how are you seeing how we're going to be moving forward? I think even just from, the sort of cannabis event space, where do you think that's headed? Do you think we're going to return to normal at some point? And I mean, I understand we're talking about your last gig, kind of, but it's also just, I think it's something that affects sort of the cannabis industry in general. I think a lot of companies were enjoying, certain, especially with limitations on advertising and stuff, we were sort of enjoying these events, not just to get together, but also as like brand activation and stuff. So how do you see that sort of getting affected moving forward? Where do you think we're headed?
So it's been really interesting, over the past few months, kind of watching how events have adjusted. Speaking personally, we were still throwing events in Tennessee in March. We threw 2 hikes, I believe. And, we had a small turnout, so it was even within the COVID guidelines of gatherings. But different states took different measures, and Tennessee was still fairly friendly. Once the whole country kind of acknowledged this as a bigger issue, we canceled all of our April and May events. And we are just now being able to throw our first hike of the season in Colorado this Saturday, this Sunday. So, I see that, like, for me as an outdoor event, organizer, there's a lot of space. You're working with a lot more physical space to actually social distance, to actually implement procedures that allow people to have their own breathing room, and they aren't worried about, being all crammed together, smoking, and, the issues therein. The big change that I've seen, that I'm making, and that we've seen elsewhere, is that people are really enforcing the whole bring your own consumption aspect, bring your own cannabis, bring your own pipe, whatever it is, cutting down on the sharing. I think that we're going to see a lot more importance and, issue with sanitation. Anybody who's been to a cannabis event knows if there's a dab station, it's probably not very clean, but there's free dabs, and you can go hit the rig, and there's a couple companies that have made like silicon adapters that allow you to do that more comfortably. But for the large majority of the cannabis consumers, they're like, I don't really care. I'll wash my mouth later. And I think that the importance of sanitary, conditions and procedures, especially if you're in a social consumption environment, that's going to really be one of the big things we notice. But beyond that, I think we're seeing a lot of, it's similar to the old joke, like, do you have to call me or could this have been an email? In very similar way, like, does this need to be an in-person event or could this have been streamed online? Could we all have done this from the comfort of our own homes or could we have, had the option of coming? But I think that we're going to see, virtual events are going to continue for the sake of accessibility. I know people who are educators, I know people who are cooks, and they've been working with or teaching students, across the world or across the country, people that never would have had the opportunity to come to their in-person class in Denver per se. And so I think that has opened a lot of us to, the necessity for in-person events. Even like we throw a disc golf event that involves, it's called discs and dabs, and you have to take a dab at every hole. And, we're working on ways that, even our cards are, 3 people per team and 1 spectator. So it's 8 people per card. That's still under the COVID limit, and we're kind of trying to work on ways that we can segment and make sure that people are staying within members of their own household, and staying comfortable within their own space. The benefit of being outdoors, I think as the weather is nice, hopefully we'll see a lot more outdoor events because you're going to have more space to spread people out and distance them. We're even seeing restaurants that are shutting down roads so that they can extend their patio 2 and 3 times as wide. And I think we'll see similar approaches from the cannabis space once larger events are allowed. I think that one of the things we're seeing is that certain industries are being allowed to test the event space, specifically worship centers. In Colorado, worship centers are allowed to have up to 50 people. They have to social distance, they have to have sanitation protocols, but they're allowing gatherings of 50 people. And so if that is successful, then we'll see that rolled out to maybe businesses can be at 50% to 25%. And then maybe events can have up to 100 people. I think that we're not going to see multi-thousand people events probably until Q4 at the earliest would be my best estimate, at least in Colorado, because there's just too much of a risk, at least as far as we're concerned right now. So I think that that's going to rule out trade shows. I think it's going to rule out conferences. I think it's going to rule out what a lot of people would have considered noise a year ago. There used to be a handful of trade shows. There was MJ BizCon, there was Champs, there were the staple shows that everybody went to. And then people started to figure out that they could make money selling exhibition space to exhibitors monthly or weekly if they, had the demand for it. And I think that kind of approach to the event space will continue to diminish. People are really going to be prioritizing their spend. They're not going to be just spending because they want to be at the party. They're going to be spending because that consumer group aligns with their brand, or that consumer group has a purchasing power, or those people that attend the event are actually going to go home and make a decision at their dispensary or at their production facility. I think that you're going to be looking at smaller events with higher price points just to attend. Our hikes are free, and we have Dis and Dabs on the schedule for this year, but we haven't actually scheduled any other paid events just due to the climate. And our prices haven't changed this year, and I don't expect them to for Dis and Dabs, generally because the overhead stays about the same, and our group has always been pretty small. But you'll notice that, it's in the same way that restaurants are raising their prices and that bars are raising their prices to accommodate for the fact that they can only have 30% of the people there. The joke is, if you can't drink for free, please stay home. If you can't afford to pay for, the social distancing aspect that's not being required, that's going to impact overall sales and their ability to cover their overhead. It was long-winded, but Yeah, as sponsors and as brands, I think there's going to be an adjustment, in where they spend their money. As we've seen, as you may have noticed, brands are not interested in buying sponsorships. They'll verbally commit to it perhaps, or if it's very, topical, they'll donate product or they'll donate, cases of water and things like that. But right now, I haven't seen any brands that are outright spending money on sponsorships, especially large spend, simply because one, the cannabis industry is doing very well, and two, they don't know what that is going to entail. Like, are they going to get their money back if they get canceled? What's going to happen if there are no events? What if it's not timely for their sales? Sorry, just a sec. I guess I should have asked if we can consume on the show. Oh, good.
So people, I'm sorry, people in the chat were complaining they couldn't hear us, and it's because
Yeah, he pushed the mute button.
I pushed the mute button when you're talking, so this way you're nice and clear. And then I had forgotten to unmute us, so people were in the chat sort of being like, "Hey, we can't hear you."
And so I was trying to be in the chat over here and like tell people, "Hey, sorry guys, we pushed the mute button." And of course, I pushed something that messes up the whole computer, so I just.
And we're totally comfortable with you and any guests smoking.
I was gonna say, what are you dabbing?
So I'm dabbing on. That was some George Washington OG solvent list. I've got some Tropicana cookies, some Poontang pie. Personal favorite is hazelnut cream.
Wait, so that's all you pressed that, or did you get that from somebody?
No, I didn't make that. I purchased these. This is Dab Logic. Single source, which is Ken Wall, and then Apothecary Extract. And they're home of mine. They sponsor a lot of our events.
Huh. What's one of your favorite strains to smoke?
Man, I've been on anything crossed with cream recently. Like the hazelnut cream is a personal favorite. Faraday's cut. It tastes like Sunny D, like old school 90s Sunny D with like a little bit of gas on the back, which is really like phenomenal. But cookies and cream itself is great. It packs a great
What is cookies and cream? I've never.
So cookies and cream, I don't know what the original cross is actually. But I know hazelnut cream is cookies and cream crossed with Miami Haze. And so I've always been a big haze fan. Actually, the nugs behind me are from the grow that I had a couple months ago. And that's Sour Amnesia, which is the Sour D Amnesia Haze cross. So I've been big on the amnesias, big on anything hazy, but I like citrusy flavors and OG punches. So anything that kind of fits that realm is where my head's at. Oni Seed puts out a lot of fire, Tropicana, Tropicana, papaya, anything, sour papaya. I gotta give a shout out to my man Altitude Farm. He puts out the first crop I grew was Hell's Angels OG crossed with cookies, which is the white crossed with cookies. And that was super fire. So definitely, anything along those lines, the nose. I typically go with a more citrusy profile, or heavily gas, one or the other. How about you?
Nice. What is that picture behind you?
Yeah, so I actually stabbed myself before putting it up. I put up it's a green screen, just making my life easier.
Oh, I thought that was like a tree or something. I was about to say, you growing behind you? I'm jealous.
No, that's a picture.
6 foot tree.
I wish I know you're the size of me. That would be pretty dope.
Right? Oh man, is it working?
Yeah, no.
I messed up everything. I literally pushed one button and everything just shut down. That shit crazy.
Perfect time to take a dab then.
Man, one thing I noticed, I started, like every time I smoke, I be trying to like pay attention to how high I get. And last night I had a discovery that Blue Dream, for some reason, gets me extremely high. I don't know what's in it, but every time somebody gives me Blue Dream, I get extremely high from it. And that's one of the things.
I feel it's the strain everybody loves to hate on.
Is it? It really is. Like people don't like it because they say it's like overgrown and all that good stuff.
It's trap strain. It's like it checked all the boxes, and then everybody's like, "No, that's too easy to grow. You shouldn't grow that weed."
Yeah, for some reason, like every time somebody give me something, I get super high, and I'm like, I guess Blue Dream is like one of my callings.
Yeah, orange apricot is one for me. I grew that, and like I just get hit straight in the head. You know, like somebody just punched you right in the center of the eye.
So because you dab a lot now, do you really smoke blunts or smoke flower?
I smoke a lot of blunts, and it's really normally I would be smoking blunts for this, but I'm out of flower, and your East Coast time prevented me from going to the dispensary beforehand. So I decided to dip into the dabs. But yeah, I'm pretty much a backwoods only smoker. I've been trying to roll more joints just because health and all, but I've smoked boxes of backwoods.
Yeah, I only really like blunts.
I think it gives him like a little bit of tobacco that he would otherwise be wondering where it is.
Yeah, every time I stop smoking blunts, and I try to like most of the time when I like first started like smoking heavy in college, I only smoked like swishers and stuff. But then when I got to the league and stuff, I tried to be like more healthy, and so I try to move to joint. And for some reason, like blunts just kept calling my name back, and then I had one, and I was like, all right, I can't go back.
Yeah, no, I feel that. I mean, I used to smoke cigarettes, and I stopped that by replacing it with joints. But there's nothing really. The only thing I've found close to smoking a blunt from because blunts burn hot. It's just a different smoke, you know.
They burn really hot.
It's not just the taste; it's like a total experience difference. And so there's a company that makes banana tree pulp paper, and they take the leaves off the trees and they pulp them into paper, and it smokes very similar to backwoods, but you need to use like a sealant or something, or slobber the fuck all over it because the papers don't have like a gum strip on. There you go. Oh, there you go. Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's just a little Blue Dream we got, and I got super high off of it last night, and then that's when I was like, oh shit, like.
So this is the last of the sour amnesia that I grew. I have there's literally maybe a half gram or a gram left, but
oh, nice.
It's been fun. And curing weed is such a fun thing to learn the different ways weed evolves and changes its approach.
Mm-hmm.
All that.
Yeah, I think definitely not enough attention is paid to curing and post harvest process. I think a lot of people get excited. At least outside of dispensaries, I think a lot of people get excited to smoke it, and sometimes it's tough to leave it sitting for long enough to finish maturing and stuff.
Oh, especially with demand, most of the stuff you get on the shelf probably hasn't cured 2 weeks, unless you're buying a higher end strain. There's such a demand, the stuff on the shelf is very fresh, which is great depending on what you need it for. But if you want properly cured buds, you have to either cure it yourself or you have to buy it at a higher price point.
Ben, one thing that we do at the end of every show, I know you probably haven't gotten a chance.
Definitely ain't doing this shit.
I know you probably haven't gotten a chance to watch a whole show beginning to. They're super long. I wouldn't expect you to have ever seen the actual ending of a show. So what we normally do is Eric has a little song that he sings. It's sort of like a modern day Dick Van Dyke show in a way, except he's not tripping over the hassock or whatever the foot thing. But Eric has a little song that he sings at the end of every show, and
what's the tow truck doing outside?
You are you are under no obligation to sing with him, but often when we have a guest still on at the end of the show, we have the guests sing with Eric. It's only 3 or 4 very simple lines. It's not a complex song. And basically it has morphed. So this is episode, I think, 75 that we've done or something. In just
Congrats, by the way, that's awesome.
Yeah, I'm shocked. I think we've taken like a total of maybe 5 days off out of so it would have been episode 80 had we just like gone straight through, but I digress. So the song has sort of like morphed. It used to be no guests were involved. It would just like, we'd say goodbye to you and we'd thank you for being on, and then we'd close up the show and Eric would do his little song and we'd sign off. Now these days, we think it's fun to, if the guest is interested.
Instead, he think it's fun.
Well, I don't have to sing.
I ain't agree exactly. That's why he be putting the ideas. Oh yeah, you should just sing with. Yeah, because he don't sing. Exactly.
Well, we all. I mean, it's your thing though. It's your thing.
Yeah.
It's your thing that we share. People. It's your thing that we share with the guests, and the audience.
People be like, "Damn, I gotta sing. Like, I did not come on this show to sing. I came to give my credentials."
And by the way, there's zero expectations. It's a little sweet thing. It's not like involved. You don't have to be a good singer, right? If anything, it's the complete opposite.
It's just embarrassing yourself. That's it.
It's not even that. And so what we normally used to do is you'd each take turns. You'd say a line or two each, and then how it always ended was that you'd both say peace, and I would cut to the end song. Like that would literally be the end of the show, right? Is you two saying peace. Now instead, since you both have implement things to smoke, right? Or to what you'll do is you'll sing the little song, and then just as you're both about to like go and consume, that's when we cut off.
Okay.
And it's sort of turned into a little thing where some of the audience also like is now starting to like get their stuff ready to prepare. And it's this interesting like social kickoff of something that like we completely cut off like from the like the end of the show is like bang, we're all like going off to smoke now. So Ben's getting a little dab ready.
Man, wish I had some dab. Hey, I like taking dab and rubbing it inside my blunt and then putting the weed in and then smoke it. It make the blunt like burn hella slow.
You can get it right in the center and roll a snake, like you just get the hash roll, it burns the whole way.
I like melting it and then just like making like a coat over it and then just rolling weed, and because it like slows the burn, so like you don't have to.
Okay, so Ben, while you're getting that ready, here's the lines for the song.
Okay.
Eric, do you want to go over it with him? And Eric, you're not seeing all the comments. They're all right here, by the way. These are the new ones.
That's the end of the show. It's time to go. Don't want to talk to y'all no more. Time to light up a smoke. And then peace.
So it's real simple though. Now's the end of the show.
I'm gonna say like that's the end of the show. You say it's time to go, it's time to go.
And then you both say don't want to talk to you no more.
Okay.
And then you go to light your thing.
It's time to smoke.
And then you say it's time to smoke, and then we cut it out.
And see, it always get messed up, but we'll most people don't care. It don't matter.
So are we gonna talk about mushrooms first?
Oh yes.
Talk about who?
Mushrooms.
Oh hell yeah.
We're definitely ready to talk about mushrooms.
Yeah, we always want to talk about mushrooms.
So I just released a mushroom cookbook, and it's all really centered around lemon text, which is one of the simplest ways you can extract mushrooms at your house. And basically, you just combine ground up mushrooms and lemon juice. And I wrote a whole cookbook that we tested out a bunch of recipes that use that kind of an extraction as actually an infusion in meals. And so we use different citrus fruits, lime, lemon.
Wait, these are like regular mushrooms or like
magic mushrooms?
Okay, that's what I was trying to.
So Eric might not know that magic mushrooms are now. Has it become legal in any of the states yet, or is it still in progress?
Colorado is legal.
still decriminalized. So it's like weed was 20 years ago, 10 years ago. You know, it's the lowest enforcement and blah blah blah. They're supposed to treat it, you know, basically like a traffic infraction, like just deal with it, get rid of it, don't lock people up, kind of deal. As long as you have a small amount, you're not dealing, things like that. You know, it has kind of widely been accepted that that made it legal. It's not legal. They are still, you know, they busted. There was a guy on Vice News, and he was on Denver Post, and he was advertising basically that he was one of the biggest mushroom growers and sellers in Denver. And the police watched the news, and they found him. So you know, like it, and they didn't like there weren't actually any charges filed, I don't think, but like they confiscated his whole grow, and you know, basically like slap on the wrist, like lowest enforcement. So Oakland is really pushing for a regulatory model. They're working on with their local city council, but it's far from being, you know, a real thing. But I mean, dispensaries are getting calls from people, and they're like, hey, so mushrooms are legal, like where can I buy them? And they're like, not here, like we sell weed. And so, you know, city councils and local governments are still trying to figure out the best way to approach that. But I talked to the guys over at Decriminalized Nature, and their eventual goal is that they would be able to, you know, develop a regulatory model that is approved by their local government and, you know, get some sort of kind of confident protection that the local and state police would enforce their local laws, you know, and protect them from outside enforcement so long as they follow it. Same way that, you know, old school medical co-ops of cannabis, you know, existed.
So Ben, where can everyone find your cookbook?
So the cookbook is on Amazon. You can get it right on Amazon as ebook or a paperback. And it's got 47 recipes in it. So ranging from chocolate to tapas to, you know, chimichurri sauce on dessert steak. It's got a lot of fun foods that I just enjoyed eating, and I, you know, guests at my dinner parties when we were testing these enjoyed them as well. They're all a lower dose. They're a little bit over a microdose as far as the serving. They're about a quarter gram per serving for most of them. But, you know, if you eat more than one serving, or if you up your dosage in the infusion, or if you eat multiple meals, you know, like our multiple courses. We used to do 3 or 4 course meals so that we could test multiple recipes, kind of make it an elevated experience. So that was a lot of fun. But yeah, it's available on Amazon. You can turn your own kitchen into a magic mushroom kitchen, and you can kind of avoid choking down your dried shrooms if you enjoy it for microdosing, if you enjoy it for macrodosing, whatever it may be. A lot of people are finding that it helps with anxiety, that it helps with PTSD, that helps you deal with a lot of emotional issues that might be buried under the skin. So.
Yeah, for sure. Ben, can you remind us what the title of the book is?
It's called Mr. Boomer's Magic Kitchen. Have either of you delved into magic mushrooms?
I love mushrooms. I love any psychedelics, mushroom, acid, all that good stuff, all that good mental fun. That's what I call it. I call it mental fun.
There you go.
Because it be making you think hard, and it be trying to, but it also make you laugh a lot. So.
Yeah, and they're saying that the afterglow from doing so, you know, lasts for multiple days at a time. It keeps you, you know, in an optimistic, positive state. You know, I mean, Callie's been taking microdosing psychedelics for a minute.
So I did just, gosh, I'm going to think of the best place to put this. So, by the way, full disclosure today, I accidentally, oh yay, Heather's on the ball. So we have super fans, and we have Heather, who you know of. I was just busy looking up your book on Amazon so I could paste it in. Heather actually did it, and I think she did.
Thanks, Heather.
And we're going to pin it up there. You know, one weird mistake I made today is instead of normally we go live to Disrupt America and then we go live to Eric's fan page. And today I accidentally went live to Disrupt America and the Disrupt America group page, which I think really screwed up a bunch of people because they all are used to like watching it on Disrupt, and then they all weren't in the same chat, which was kind of strange. So anyway, it's like two separate streams when we do that. We're not cross-posting. So Eric's looks like it's its own show to Facebook and Disrupt does. Anyway, so I'm gonna make sure that your book link also gets posted. What we're gonna do is actually we'll make a post in the Disrupt group that links directly to your book, so this way people can check it out. Because certainly the crowd that we run with, I think everyone's going to be really interested in that, and I think that's something that's been missing in a lot of our. I know it sounds like I'm sort of treating it sort of lightly, but that is something that's sort of missing in a lot of our lives. Is that I think over the last few years, there's been a lot of people like working toward consuming cannabis as an edible or through your mouth, not smoking it, but eating it. There's been a lot of progress with that, and there's a lot of resources out there for folks to if they want to make something delicious with cannabis as opposed to your traditional throw it into a brownie pan kind of thing. There's options, right? But that's really awesome that there's actually good, legitimate recipes out there for mushrooms, because I think most of the time people are just how can I choke this down, as opposed to how can I turn it into an enjoyable experience, especially when you're with people, right? It turns it into a communal eating experience.
Yeah, no, it's very similar to dining, I've got a good buddy, Royalty. He does a Dine with Royalty event every 420 up until COVID, where he does Michelin-style meals, 6 to 8 courses, all infused, infusion based on the plate, based on what you're looking for. So we always go and just get blasted. I mean, it's the only event that I've ever left with an edible high so strong I just wasn't comfortable. And that's been really fun. And so I actually had him over and kind of cooked for him with mushrooms. And, as somebody very similarly, he's like, man, we just normally choke down an eighth and go to the show or whatever it is. And that was how I was introduced to mushrooms too. And so really taking the time to eat a smaller dose over a period of time and not eating it in a way that you're like, oh, this is gross, give me that beer, So that it's definitely a different experience. It's fun. We would always end up playing games or having conversations with the diners. And it was just a lot of fun to see how everybody reacted to a lower dose. We kept to about a gram and a half per meal. And for many people, that's, lower than they've ever been told to eat. So you can actually see a noticeable high. It's like when somebody introduced you to cannabis, and once you feel what cannabis is like, you can smoke smaller amounts and be like, oh, cool, I felt that hit. Very similarly. So I think it's a great introduction for people, and I think it's a great way for a wider audience to maybe appreciate it. In the same way some people don't want to smoke pot. A lot of people don't want to eat mushrooms or acid, or they don't want to know they're eating a drug. And so giving them alternatives has been a fun project.
Well, and I'll say that in my sort of professional life, as I've transitioned into cannabis, right, there's a lot of people that the stigma around cannabis still is prohibitive, right? I actually find there's less of a stigma with those same people with mushrooms. There's more people out there that are yeah, I heard about this mushrooms thing and I've read studies and it's helping people and I'm really interested in it. And a lot of those same people are yeah, but I'm pretty much all set with cannabis. I'm not into it, right? So it's really interesting, and I think it's really timely and awesome that you came out with a cookbook, and I totally want to figure out how I can get a signed copy off of you. Because once we change this set, I want to have my little bookshelf of awesome cannabis books up there too. So I want to figure out how to.
Absolutely. Yeah, shoot me your address. We'll send you one.
Awesome. So Ben, before I am so audacious as to continue to seem like I'm rushing, it really wasn't that I was trying to rush the end of the show. It was more just that I kind of get excited. We don't. Other than than this a little bit today. Eric and I don't really consume on the show, so it's always like before and after. So like that 2 hour mark kind of hits, and we're kind of like, hey, it's like time to, you know. So it really wasn't. Sometimes, by the way, sometimes we've gone on until like 1 p.m. with the show. So it's really not about like rushing out of here in any way. So I want to make sure that we do cover some of the different things that like we want to hear about and you were hoping to talk about. So other than like, I was about to rush out of here and you're like, yo, aren't we going to talk about the book? And I want, like, honestly, like, I definitely wanted to talk about the book. So are we missing anything else that we should go over?
I think we covered a lot of it. You know, the book has just been a recent project. CannaVenture is just starting up again, which is great. Cannabis Doing Good should be just starting up again as well. I know they've been doing a lot of virtual fundraisers in support of COVID, in support of Black Lives Matter. But they kind of started, I believe they started 2 years ago. And they created their advisory board this year, and I was welcomed up to that. And the goal of it is really to be sort of a better business bureau of the cannabis space, to give consumers a way to know, you know, is the product that I'm buying, like, do they give any money back to any social causes? You know, do they invest in recyclable packaging? Whatever it is that makes an effort to, you know, make less of an impact on the world, on the earth, you know, and support good causes. And I think that it helps the intelligent shopper, the discerning shopper, the one that doesn't just want to buy a bag of weed because it's $30. You know, they like really are curious about where the weed comes from and who's behind it, and who they're supporting. And so I think that that's going to be, you know, a much bigger movement, especially once COVID is less of an issue. But I'm really excited to be part of their team. I've been writing for Hemp, Connoisseur and Graham for a while. I highly recommend both publications. They're both digital only right now because of COVID. So if you feel like supporting them online, that's definitely something I would recommend checking out. But other than that, yeah, I mean, it's a busy time right now for us in the cannabis space. You know, we're lucky. It's similar to the old days, you know, cigarettes and alcohol were the businesses to be in during times of trouble. Cannabis has seen, you know, a historic surge in, one, being named essential, and two, sales. People are sitting at home smoking a lot of weed just to stay calm. So, you know, that's a blessing. It's also a blessing to be, you know, in content, as you guys know. People are at home and still consuming content, still educating themselves, still want to stay informed. And for people like you and I, that's great.
Ben, thanks so much for hanging out with us today. And I know we have got the link to your book up. If people want to follow you personally and keep up with you or get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that? Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn? What do you got?
So Instagram, I'm cannabinoid with a Ben as opposed to a bin. And I'm also Mr. Boomer's Magic Kitchen. So those would be the two Instagram handles. I mean, CannaVenture as well would be our Instagram handle for events if you're in Colorado or Tennessee. Or if you're in a state that doesn't yet have CannaVenture and you want to start throwing CannaVenture hikes, definitely hit me up. But those would be the Instagram platforms. I would say benowens.co is my website, where you can find a lot more information on me and what I'm working on. And then CannaVenture.org is the website for that. So definitely check those out. Give us a follow, join us on a hike, join us on a camp out.
Awesome. Okay, so I'm not sure at this point if you remembered, and by the way, of course somebody in the audience was snarky and they're like, why don't you guys just write down the lyrics and like give them to people instead of making us listen to Mike explain it all the time?
Got him to me.
But they don't realize that's part of the charm.
Yeah,
of the whole show.
Yeah.
All right, so again, now's the end of the show.
It's time to go.
It's time to go. We don't want to talk to you no more. And now it's time to smoke. And then that's when I cut. Kind of cut.
Okay.
But not like that. And not like that either. Whoops. Yeah, so now we're ready. I'm gonna let you guys do your thing.
I gotta stretch. Yeah. It's time to wake up now. How you doing, man? You all right?
Good, man. I'm ready.
You gotta see you smile, man. You been serious the whole show.
I'm trying.
So that's the end of the show.
It's time to go.
Hey, don't want to talk to y'all no more. And now it's time to smoke. Peace.
Cheers. Cool. So we cut.
Yes, it is.